So today I'm going to be teaching a 7th grade health class focusing on mental health and the difference of positive and negative self-talk. And in this class, I chose to focus on speech and language impairments. So the definition of this is a communication disorder such as stuttering, impaired articulation, a language impairment, or a voice impairment that adversely affects a child's education performance. So the most common one is a stutter, and that is in this class what I'm pretending that there is a child in my class that has a stutter. And some of the common traits of speech impairment is that they tend to emerge at a young age. And because of this, the earlier a child is diagnosed and receives the services, the more likely that they can outgrow the disability. So some students and children can outgrow their speech and language impairment, but for others, it is a lifelong impairment. And a lot of the sounds that they have a hard time articulating are the S and the Z sounds, as well as blending sounds together, such as the SH and the TH. And a lot of students will work during the school day with a speech and language pathologist just to try to help them feel more confident and to get these sounds out as best as they can. So in my lesson, a few of the modifications I have for this. The first one is that there are multiple parts of this lesson where it's all written based, so this will be no problem for them. Also, if the student feels comfortable, they can participate, but I'm not making it a requirement that they must participate. I'm doing this because I want to make it a warm and comfortable classroom for them and not one where they dread coming to, knowing that they'll have to participate and will lose points if they do. So I'll make it very clear to the student that if they don't feel comfortable and if they're not confident, they don't have to participate. And then finally, if they do feel comfortable participating, all of it will already be written down. So they'll write their response, and then if they want to participate, they can. So they'll be reading from a piece of paper, which really helps kids with speech and language impairments. It helps them to read and speak instead of just freely speaking off the top of their head. So those are the three modifications I have for this lesson for a student that has a speech and language impairment. And again, why I'm doing that is just to make sure that the child feels comfortable in my classroom and wants to come and isn't scared that they're going to get called on every single class. And just a heads up, there's a very noisy fan in this room, so I'm going to be staying pretty close to the camera for most of this lesson. Normally I'd be walking around way more, but just so you could hear me clearly, I'm going to be staying pretty close to the computer. All right, so I'm going to start my timer. Hi class, if you could all come in and take a seat at your chair. We're going to get started. Please take out a piece of paper and a pen and take a look at the whiteboard and answer our morning prompt today, which is, do you think that you have positive or negative self-talk? And is your inner voice noisy or loud? So really think about when you're alone, when it's quiet, what is the voice in your head telling you? Is it being positive, saying good things to you, or is it bringing you down and being negative? And then is your voice always talking to you all the time? Or are there times when you're just have nothing, a blank slate in your voice? All right, so jot down your thoughts. I'll give you 1 minute and then we'll discuss as a class. All right, does anyone want to volunteer? Any thoughts that you have, positive or negative self-talk? And is it noisy or loud? Any volunteers? Yes, go ahead. What were your thoughts on this prompt? Very good. So you can have a mix of both positive and negative, and that's super common. I know for me, that's how I feel a lot of the times. And it really goes based off of your mood. So if you're in a good mood, you probably have more positive self-talk at that time. Versus if you're in a bad mood, it's very easy to let that bring you down and talk negatively to yourself. What about the volume of your voice? Whose voice is loud and whose is quiet? Anyone? Quiet, loud, yep. Again, this can be a mix too. Sometimes your voice can be quiet and sometimes it can be loud, depending on how you're feeling, on if you're comfortable in the situation, etc. All right, thank you for your participation in that. So today we're going to be talking all about positive and negative self-talk, if you couldn't have guessed based off of our prompt. So negative self-talk is very common. It's the easier one to do versus positive self-talk. It's very easy to bring yourself down, to compare yourself to others negatively, to think about yourself in a negative light. This is very easy to do. But we want to try to turn our negative self-talk into positive self-talk instead. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to address the fact that, yes, there are times when we will have negative self-talk, but how can I turn that negativity into something more positive? And this means that you have to actively be policing yourself. So you have to realize, oh, I'm being a little negative right now. How can I turn this around and be positive? It's going to help you tremendously. All right, so I have a worksheet here for you guys, going through a few different scenarios. So I'm going to go through the first one with you before I pass it out. So the first one is called jumping to conclusions. So this is when we assume what others are thinking or when we make predictions about the future. So on your worksheet, it's going to have, every box is going to have this first one filled out. So it's an example. The example for the first one is, my friend was late meeting with me. He must not like me enough to be on time. He probably will stop hanging out with me. Then it goes into the feelings. So the feelings for that are hurt and lonely. Then the next part is where you fill in what your negative self-talk would be. So this is an example for me. I wrote down, my mom isn't talking to me when she cooks dinner. She must be mad at me for something. And then I wrote down the feelings I would have that are associated with that. So I wrote down confused, lonely, and anxious. And then this third column where it says CC, you are going to leave that blank. We will be filling that in later. All right, so you are going to go through each one of these. In total, there are 8. All right, so there's 8 different examples of different scenarios that you'll have to come up with. This is a quiet activity. You're not sharing your responses with anyone next to you. And leave the third column blank. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pass out your worksheet. And once you get your worksheet, you are free to start. Remember, this is a quiet activity. If you have questions, I'll be around. But you are not sharing your responses with anyone next to you. So I just want to stop everyone real quick. And Anna had a great question. She said that some of the feelings that she's feeling for one scenario are similar or the same as another one, and that is totally fine. You can use the same feelings for each one, but try to really think, give at least two feelings for every example that you feel based off of this. So remember, I said confused, lonely, and anxious. And those may be some of those for the next one. I might also feel confused. And maybe the next one I may also feel anxious. All right, try to really think about some different feelings that you may get because of this negative self-talk. Two examples of feelings for each one. And another great question, these don't have to be real situations for every single one of them. You can make something up if you can't think of something. But if there is a situation where you think, oh yeah, the other day this is what I felt, then write that down. But you can make something up if you can't think of anything. All right? And don't worry about proper grammar or sentence structure. It's not what we're focusing on. You're not going to be turning this into me. All right, this is for you and to help out you in the future. All right, so quick bullet points. My example was not very long. You don't have to write a whole essay in every one of these boxes. Nice and quick. All right, this is your 2-minute warning. You have 2 more minutes to finish up. If you don't get to every one of these, that is okay. Again, you're going to be taking this home so you can reference this at a later date. Try to get as many as you can down, but if there's a few that you don't, that is okay. We're going to be going through them together also as a class. Final minute here, get your last thoughts on the paper. All right, go ahead and put your pencils down. Thank you for working on that so quietly. I could tell you were all putting really good thoughts down on the paper and really trying to reflect on yourself. Again, this is going to help you in the long run, all right? So now we're going to go through the last column. You all should have left that last column blank because you don't know what CC is. So CC stands for corrective corner. We are going to be talking about switching our negative self-talk and how we can correct that and turn it into positive self-talk. All right, so this is where it's going to take you policing yourself, saying, how can I make this into something positive instead? All right, so we're going to go through each one as a class, and we're going to think of some different ways that we can turn our negative self-talk into positive. So I'm going to be asking for volunteers. I know this is a sensitive subject, so if you don't feel comfortable volunteering, that is 100% okay. You're not graded on participation. All right, I just want you to try to see how you can be turning this negative self-talk into something positive. So although you don't have to participate, you do have to be writing down things in this last column, how you can change your scenario into something more positive. All right, so we're going to start off with number 1. Does anyone want to read what jumping to conclusions is? I read this one earlier, but does anyone want to read it again? Yes, James, go ahead. Good, so jumping to conclusions, exactly what it sounds like, just thinking for someone else essentially. Just because someone has some type of body language or is late or isn't speaking, you immediately jump to the conclusion that it's something bad. All right, so remember my example was my mom isn't talking to me when she cooks dinner. She must be mad at me. Does anyone else want to share what their scenario was for jumping to conclusions? Go ahead, Lauren. That's a great one. Now, can anyone think of how we can correct this negative self-talk and turn it into something positive? Does anyone have any ideas? And you could use mine if you don't feel comfortable using yours. Go ahead. That's a great idea. So for me, I said my mom isn't talking to me while she cooks dinner. She must be mad at me. So how I'm going to turn that into something more positive is my mom isn't talking to me when she cooks. She must be busy. Maybe I can help her finish dinner. Or my mom isn't talking to me when she cooks. Maybe she has a lot on her mind. Maybe I could ask her if anything is bothering her. See, now instead of bringing myself immediately down, I'm thinking of ways that I could help my mom. I know that will make me feel better, and it'll make my mom feel better as well. All right, moving on to number 2. Does anyone want to read aloud what personalization is? Any volunteers? Jenny, go ahead. Good. Blaming ourselves, even if we had no control over the situation. So the example from the worksheet is the bus came early, so I missed it. I should have known it would. Now, can you know if a bus is going to come early or late? No. And then the feelings were stupid and angry at myself. Does anyone want to share the example that they gave for personalization? Mira, go ahead. Good. So using sports examples is super common in this. So you should have known they were going to use that move and score a goal on you. It's your fault that you lost the game. When in reality, you have how many other teammates on the field with you helping you out also. So who has an idea that how they could turn their positive self-talk, or excuse me, their negative self-talk into something positive? Go ahead, Ben. Good, saying that maybe next time you'll be more prepared to leave early. You'll lay your clothes out earlier so that if you need to, you can get out the door a little quicker. That's a great idea. All right, moving on to number 3. Catastrophizing. Does anyone know what a catastrophe is? Exactly. So this goes on to that. Who wants to read what this means? Go ahead. Yep, so just thinking a little bitty problem is the biggest issue in the world. All right, making something so small into something huge. This is really easy to do, to nitpick on something and make it your whole focus, and it's all you can think about, when in reality it's something that if you took a step back from, it wouldn't be the end of the world. So the example is, I got a B on my test. I'm going to fail this class. And the feelings are upset and discouraged. Now, just because you get one bad grade on something and a B isn't even a bad grade, does that mean you're going to automatically fail the entire class? No. So who has an example, who has their personal example for this one? Go ahead, Emma. Good, that's a great one. I didn't clean my room when my mom asked me to, and now I'm going to be grounded. When you know that if you say, I'm sorry, and I'll clean it right now, everything will be okay. All right, so what are some feelings, or what are some ways that we can turn this into positive self-talk besides what I just said? Go ahead, Logan. Good, that's a great one. Kind of piggybacking off of it, taking a step back from yourself and looking at the big picture. Again, this can be really hard to do in the moment, but if you get into a habit of it now, it'll be easier when these situations do arise. That's a great idea. All right, moving on to our next one. We have shouldering. Who wants to read aloud what shouldering is? Go ahead. Good, unrealistic expectations. So this is, when we set those goals earlier in class in the year, so this would be, we had the reach goals, but those are still ones that we can attain. These are things you set for yourself that you know you can accomplish, whether it be because of distance or because of any other amount of reason. You know you can't do it, so essentially you're setting yourself up to fail. So the example we have is, I should run every morning because I should lose a lot of weight. The feelings are, feel like a failure when I can't live up to this expectation. Does anyone have an example of this? Go ahead. Good. Grades are a big one for this. So you should get an A in every single class, get an A on every single test, every single assignment. Otherwise, you're a failure. And that's just unrealistic. There's going to be some subjects that you may struggle with a little more. There might be a homework assignment that's a little challenging for you, and that is okay. What are some ways that we can turn this into a positive? Go ahead. Good. Instead of focusing on the failures, learning from the mistakes. So with this homework example, if there was an assignment that was really hard and maybe instead of an A, you got a B. Well, instead of focusing on that B, focus on, did I learn the content? Did I get better at this? The next time I come across this, am I going to be even better off? The answer is probably going to be yes. But if you only focus on the negative, you're not going to even see that. All right, moving on to number 5. We have overgeneralization. All right, can someone read aloud what this is? Go ahead. Good, so focusing again on one thing and making it about everything. So the example, my teacher always yells at me, angry and frustrated. Maybe they yelled at you one time, but now you think that they yell at you every single day, and they're always mad at you. Does anyone have a personal example? Go ahead. Good, yeah, this is an easy one to relate back to your parents. So just because one time you didn't do the dishes, now you think that your parents don't think you can ever do the dishes and they can never trust you again. What is a way that we can make this into a positive? Yep, go ahead. Good. So if you want to prove to them that they can trust you, show them that. So maybe instead of waiting for them to ask you to do the dishes, you can just do them and build that trust, build that self-confidence within yourself. All right, we're going to go through these next few a little quicker so we can just get to everything. Number 6 is labeling. When we label ourselves or others because of a specific circumstance and do not take other examples into consideration. So the example, I am so stupid, I can't do anything right. The feelings are worthless and unmotivated. Does anyone have an example for this? So does anyone have a personal example for labeling? Good, that's a great one. Bringing it back to school. Great job. And what's a way that we can correct this negative self-talk? Great job. All right, moving on to number 7, emotional reasoning. When we take the way we are feeling. So the example, I feel so nervous for this speech, I'm going to forget what to say and embarrass myself. Terrified and defeated are those emotions. Does anyone have a personal example? Go ahead. Great job. Same thing goes for sports. You feel so nervous, you think you're going to mess up, and yet you're the goalie. So in a penalty kick, you think it's all on you if we lose. What is a way that you can correct that positive self-talk? Great job. If it goes in, knowing that you still tried your best and there's another game. Great. And last one, magnification and minimization. When you focus on the positives of others and make smaller positives of yourself. So an example, they are so talented. I got a goal only because I was lucky. The feelings are disappointed and frustrated. Anyone have an example? Go ahead. Yeah, so this is what I was saying at the beginning of class. It's super easy to compare yourselves to others. They have nicer clothes than me, their hair looks nicer, all that. They have nicer shoes. So how can we correct this stuff? Great, reminding yourself what I'm wearing is what I want to wear. How I do my hair is how I want to do my hair. It's for me. You shouldn't be doing stuff to please other people. If you're not pleasing yourself, you're not going to be happy. All right, thank you all so much for really taking the time on this worksheet. As I said before, this is yours to keep. All right, so next time you feel yourself and you can hear your inner voice saying negative thoughts, I want you to come back to the sheet and figure out, okay, is this labeling? Is this minimization? What is happening right now? And how can I fix this? Because again, this is for your own benefit. This is going to help all of you in the long run. We all have different situations, but we all still deal with that negative self-talk. All right, so finally here, I am going to pass out an exit slip for you guys. All right, so the exit slip is, what are 3 ways you can incorporate positive self-talk into your daily life? So here's where I want it to be about you, all right? In the worksheet, we were able to create some imaginary scenarios, but this is about your life and what you can do on a daily basis to turn that negative self-talk into positive. All right, and on your way out, I need you to drop this exit slip at my desk. All right? And thank you again, all of you, for being so open. And just like the beginning prompt, this is a silent activity, so you're working on this silently, dropping it off at the door when you leave. All right, again, thank you, class, for being so willing to get vulnerable with me. And I just want to remind you, this is for you guys. I want you to live your best and healthiest lives. Please hand me your exit slip. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next class. And if you ever have any questions, I'm always here. If you aren't sure how you can make your negative self-talk into positive, come find me, and we can go through some specific scenarios together. All right, I'll see you next time.